Plus with Warren Buffett, who's the chairman and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. Right now, we're joined by Charlie Munger, who's the vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway.
स्टॉक मार्केट रिलेटेड इंटरव्यू वीडियो पाने के लिए मेरे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल आइकन को दबा दें।
Charlie, thank you very much for being here with us this morning.
Glad to be here.
It's great to see you. We are coming off of the annual shareholders meeting, and obviously we're going to talk to you guys about the news of the day. But first, I'd like to take the opportunity while I have the two of you here together, just to talk a little bit about what your partnership has meant to each other. How many years, Warren, have you been partners with Charlie?
I met him in 1959, and we instantly became partners in thinking. And then over the years, we developed all these financial relationships. But I knew immediately upon meeting Charlie that we were going to be, we were in sync, and we've lasted a lot longer than I thought we would. But we have had an incredible fun together. We've done all kinds of things. Some have worked, some haven't worked, and we've never had an argument. We disagree on things sometimes, but we've never had an argument, and never second guess me. I try not to second guess him. It's a great relationship.
Charlie, 60 years. Did you know at that first meeting that you'd have a partnership like this?
Well, I knew that we were on the same page, but it's been very lucky that a little company became as big as it did, and that we've had the run we've had.
What's it like?
I think we're very talented and all that, but we've also had a tailwind of good luck.
What's it like in terms of how you all kind of use each other as sounding boards? How does that work?
Well, I think if two people collaborate in their own way, they're better off. Einstein would not have been able to do what he did if he didn't have various people to talk to.
It's more fun, too.
Yeah.
The ideas are better net, but it's also more fun. And when we disagree, Charlie says, well, you'll end up agreeing with me because you're smart and I'm right. Very simple. And he is right. That's the hell of it.
Not always.
You both act pretty unilaterally, though. You both kind of do your own things and then come to each other after the fact a lot of time.
He knows what I'm thinking. I know what he's thinking. And either one of us would ever do anything we really thought the other one was opposed to. We might feel that with a little something to do, but we are in sync.
Let's talk about a deal you did recently, Occidental.
Right.
Where you agreed to back them up. You cut that deal and then you called Charlie, but you knew what he was thinking already?
I didn't want to wake him up. He's on Pacific Coast time. I thought it'd be very unfair if I brought him.
Warren knew I'd be for that deal.
Sure, I knew it.
How did you know that? How do you know so much about each other and how you think?
Well, Occidental's in my part of the world, and of course I've followed to some extent the developments that are interesting.
And what do you think of the Occidental deal? Why do you like it?
I like it.
Why?
I think it's got potential.
Because?
Well, because I think that Occidental is right to want to do it.
To buy into the Permian Basin, to get more assets there.
Absolutely.
And what is it about the Permian Basin that you like?
It's got a lot of oil in it and gas. I don't like a desert just for its own sake.
I asked Warren this earlier today. If it's such a great deal and the Permian Basin is such a great deal, why didn't you just buy in a Darko?
Nobody asked us to.
Yeah, well, and that may sound strange, but who knows if they'd come to us? You know, we do usually wait till people come to us. So it isn't like if we wanted to buy into the field, we necessarily start dialing and flying around and everything. That's
Occidental knows a lot about the basin, and we don't. Of course, of course we like having somebody with us that knows something about it.
Yeah, when we were at Solomon, we had something called Anglo-American, some promotional operation.
Anglo-Persian.
What?
Wasn't it Anglo-Persian?
Something. Anyway.
But it was Anglo-British or something. Whatever it was neither.
It was neither. Anglo-Swiss, actually.
Anglo-Swiss.
And they came to the directors and had this big plan for drilling in Russia, and we were going to put up a lot of money and send it to Siberia and hope that we got oil back. And Charlie said, who's Anglo and
Who's Swiss?
it was Swiss, and of course, none of these people were. I mean, so they were lying in the name of the company, and that did not go over so well with the Solomon board when Charlie pointed it out. But we sent a lot of money to Siberia, and they brought one.
We never got it back either.
We got one little vial of oil. The guy came to see me one time after I became chairman, and he showed me this magnificent, exactly the kind of oil they wanted, and that's the only oil we ever saw. And it was producing 50,000 barrels a day toward the end. They just kept it all.
Anglo-Swiss.
Anglo-Swiss.
Let me
No Anglos and no Swiss, just lies all the way down.
Let me ask you, though, about Occidental and the steel in particular. If you like the Permian Basin, but you've also both commented on times when you think you've paid too much in the past. Is there a number that would hit that you would think, okay, this is paying too much for the Permian Basin, too? Charlie?
Of course.
All the time.
We always think that way.
Yeah.
But it's not anywhere near at the price that they're paying right now. You think
we
it's a good
don't.
Oh, we
price?
don't know.
We don't know.
Maybe the last dollar. All we know is we're willing to do it.
You both have made some comments about recently to us that you think prices are very high in terms of what you have to pay for a premium for buying a company outright. Is that
There's
still
probably
the case?
more competition for buying companies by people who are using other people's money and therefore have less sensitivity to price and who are willing to borrow a whole lot more and are being offered the ability to borrow a whole lot more with less in the way of covenants. And so the competition is tough on it.
And they get part of the upside and they have none of the downside.
In fact, they make money on the downside.
Yeah, so that is really terrible competition for us. And it gets worse every year.
Is that why you're sitting on such a big pile of cash at this point?
Part of the reason, of
It's
course.
the residual. On the other hand, I would much rather own many common stocks than bonds, and of course, I think stocks compared to bonds, and you have to compare. They are the ultimate, and we've talked about bond yields in effect being gravity, and when they're very low, there's very little gravity to pull down stocks, and that condition exists today. We'd so much rather own the business of America than get a 3% for 30 years from the government. And people were making those choices all the time in the investment world. That stocks actually, in many cases, they look like perfectly intelligent investments.
Charlie, you agree with that?
Sure.
Let's talk about some of the IPOs that have been coming to market recently, because there has been a bit of a fervor. Many of these IPOs have done very well, although not all of them. Lyft shares are under pressure. Uber comes to market this week. And Warren, you mentioned this weekend, and you talked once again about how you had looked at Uber about 18 months ago and passed on that. What do you think about Uber coming to market now?
Well, because I looked at it, I really don't want to discuss Uber, and I don't have any special feelings about it than any other coming to market. But I would say that in 54 years, well, I don't think Berkshire's ever bought a new issue. I mean, the idea of saying the best place in the world I can put my money is something where all the selling incentives are there, commissions are higher, the animal spirits are rising. I mean, that's going to be better than 1,000 other things I can buy where there is no similar selling enthusiasm and the desire to get the deal done and extra commissions. That's the single best thing to buy on a given day. I mean, it's
I can't think of a time we've ever done it.
Yeah.
Ever bought an IPO?
Yeah, never bought one.
No. How can it be?
They don't even call us.
Yeah, but how can it be the best single thing to use your money for in a given day is something that they got everybody in the world out pushing it. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I'm not saying that necessarily what we're buying is going to work out better, but there have to always be better things than one single issue. If you make one decision on investing, if you can't find something among all the choices we see that is better than something that and like I say, the commissions they've come down, I think, now on this, but I mean, the highest commission thing that a stock salesman could sell to securities was the new issue. So you have all this push behind it. We like to buy things where nobody's making a dime selling them to us.
Charlie, just specifically on some of these companies, and I won't talk about Uber versus any of the others, but a lot of these companies are coming very late in the cycle. They've had massive private capital that's been put to work to this point, and they still have massive losses and the need for more capital.
It's even worse than that. Some of them have preference for each round, and so the rounds aren't really fair rounds. There's a lot of lying in modern finance.
So you're not in favor of any of these big
I don't like lying.
What do you think of these? I ask this because we have a lot of retail investors who watch and who are looking at this and they feel the excitement behind it.
Well, not going to get any wonderful advice from us about buying IBOs.
Whenever you buy a stock, let's say you're buying General Motors, 1.4 billion shares out. We'll say the stock's 40, it's a little below that. You should be able to take out a one-page sheet of paper and say, I am buying the General Motors company at $56 billion because. And if you can't answer that question, if you can't write that out, then you'll go on to something else. And if you're buying Berkshire, you have to say, I am buying Berkshire Hathaway at $500 billion because. And if the answer isn't something you can write, you can't say I'm buying it because my neighbor thinks it's going to go up, or because everybody's talking about it on CNBC this morning, or whatever it may be.
Or I like to ride around an Uber.
Yeah, no, that's the question you answer. Now, when you buy groceries, buy everything else, you can answer that question. But if you can't answer it on something that you're involving your savings of many years for, why in the world should you? Why should you be doing it?
Let me ask you, gentlemen, about a topic that came up over the weekend at the annual shareholders meeting, and that's shares of Wells Fargo and just the company to this point. I got a lot of questions that were sent to me by shareholders questioning why you all have been standing behind Wells Fargo without saying more about what went on there. Charlie, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a fine company. And so they made one bad decision about an incentive plan. I regard it as an honest mistake, not as some deep moral failure. Nobody was being malevolent in the high ranks of Wells Fargo. They just had a blind spot.
They had a blind spot that didn't get cleared up very quickly, though.
That's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't. They lost their jobs over a blind spot, but I don't think Tim Sloan had a blind spot. I think he just lost his job because life is hard.
You thought Dick Kovacevic
I don't like it.
You thought Dick Kovacevic had a blind spot?
Yeah, sure.
And
the following guy.
John Stumpf?
Yeah.
But you don't think there was any criminal activity?
Of course not. Well, the criminal activity was people below, and that was forgivable. They were under a crazy incentive system.
Is the problem fixed now?
I think so.
I think a very, very, very high percentage of it would be. Certainly the intent is correct. I mean, it's cost the shareholders, a lot of money. And they want to correct it. When I went into Solomon, I wanted to correct it too. I never could quite say it was over, though. People kept asking me, is it over? I don't know. I want it to be over, and I hope it's over, and I'm trying to make it over, and I'm looking for things. But when you have they have 260 or so thousand people, it's a scary job to be running a city of 260,000 people with no cops. And we have some things wrong at Berkshire now that I don't know about. Charlie beats this into me all the time. That, as soon as you find a mistake, do something about it. And sometimes that's unpleasant. But I've got to do it. I mean, I may have people that are deputized to do it, but it's my ultimate responsibility.
Yeah, and you do it too, fast.
Yeah.
Is Wells Fargo different because it's a shareholding and not an actual Berkshire company that you own outright?
Well, of course, we don't have any control over what they do.
Who should be the new CEO? Charlie?
Well, if I'd been picking it, it would have been Tim Sloan. But now they're going to get somebody. Sometimes a new person is better and sometimes worse. I think it's about half and half.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah. I met 2 weeks ago or thereabouts with 4 people, including Betsy Duke, the chairman. I've never talked. That was the first time I met her in my life or talked to her. But we talked about it. And it's a tough position to fill.
What did you tell? You talked to the chairwoman of Wells Fargo
Right.
and told her that you think what about?
No, they called me. I didn't call them. I mean, I didn't jump into it, but they just asked what I thought. That's the first time they have asked what I thought about it, and I gave them a suggestion or two. But,
what was your suggestion?
Do these people have names? But I suggested publicly that not be somebody from Wall Street. Not because there aren't plenty of good people on Wall Street. I just think that politicians are looking for the next one to beat up on, and it's good television, and it plays right into the campaign, and you need somebody running it that does not bear the extra baggage of having a label on their forehead that says Wall Street, which will cause half the viewers to cheer for whoever's doing the beating up of.